Right, so it's UFC 323 this weekend. I'm going to be giving my full breakdown of the main card and what I think is going to happen in each fight. I'm going to do the same thing that I did last time, and I'm going to put a couple of bets at the end of the video for you to follow. If you followed the parlays last time I did this and you 4x your money, congratulations. If you didn't, then this is your chance to redeem yourself. So we're going to start with the first fight, which is Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. I'm getting fucking sick of talking about Bogdans at this point. But in my opinion, this fight is essentially a case of experience versus youth. On one hand, you've got Jan Blachowicz, who's fought the likes of Dominic Reyes, Israel Adesanya, Corey Anderson, took Pereira to a close decision, had a split draw with Magomed Ankalaev. He's been through a lot of wars and he's got some great experience. He's a former champion. And then you've got Bogdan Guskov, who's very green in the UFC. He made his debut in 2023 with a submission loss in the first round against Volkan Oezdemir. So you've basically got a crafty veteran who's a lot more careful and technical nowadays, like you can see in his last fight versus Carlos Ulberg. I was there in person for that fight, and there's a lot of debate about, I think Ulberg won, no, Jan got robbed. I don't think either man really did anything to even win, to be honest. I think you could call that a draw in itself, from what I saw in person next to the cage. But you can also take away from that fight that Carlos Ulberg is a dangerous striker, and Jan Blachowicz managed to stay safe. Didn't get hurt at any point in that fight. Ulberg was too hesitant to commit to his strikes because Jan hits really hard. You can see a similar sort of thing when he fought Adesanya when he was a little bit younger. Adesanya didn't really get any good strikes off. Anything he did land didn't hurt him either. Jan's very tough. He's got a big fucking head. So since then, Bogdan's racked up a couple of good wins. Not really against anyone of note. His best win is Nikita Krylov, who Dominic Reyes also just slept recently as well. So it is a massive case of experience versus youth. You've got Bogdan, who's got a really hands down, aggressive, sloppy defense striking style, doesn't have good grappling at all. He even had a fight against Billy Elikana, and he got controlled in the first round of that fight until Elikana just gassed himself out trying to wrestle and basically put his head into a guillotine for Bogdan to take. I'm guessing he just didn't want to get TKO'd, but he was gassed out of his head. So Blachowicz is a very diverse fighter. Each method of winning, he's got 1/3 of his wins by each method. He's got 1/3 of his wins by knockout or TKO, 1/3 of his wins by submission, and 1/3 of his wins by decision, all against really, really good contenders, top level athletes in the UFC and before that as well. So in terms of his path to victory, there's not really a specific one you can look at. Obviously you look at Bogdan's striking defense when he's hands down again, really aggressive, rushing in to finish. Obviously, Jan could catch him there, but I think in his old age, he's slowing down a little bit. His athleticism is starting to decline, and that is starting to show in his most recent fights. He's having really close fights against top contenders, but not doing enough or putting a stamp on anything to get those victories. So I think that Jan Blachowicz could show his age in this fight, but if you look at Bogdan Guskov and who he's beat and who he's actually fought, again, he debuted in 2023 and lost by submission against Volkan Oezdemir, who's a knockout artist, and also hasn't been on a great run himself recently. I think there's two different paths this fight can go. I think Guskov gets it done early and finishes Jan in the first round via knockout. Don't think he's going to submit Jan Blachowicz. Jan's too crafty on the ground to get submitted, especially off Guskov, who's not a submission artist in himself. I officially think that Jan is going to win this one by decision using his experience. Again, he's declined athletically, but he's got so much experience against top contenders that Guskov has never faced before of that caliber. I think Jan gets this one done by decision. Moving on. So now the next fight on the main card, we've got Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbot. Cejudo had a bit of a weird career. He had a really, really good run. He fought the likes of TJ Dillashaw, Dominic Cruz. He beat Demetrius Johnson the second time round, got TKO'd in the first round against him, but that was a long time ago, and I think he wasn't completely dialed in. He was more of in his wrestling mindset, and he wasn't coming into a true MMA style as of yet. So I think that's what happened there. But Cejudo took a 3-year layoff. For some reason, after he beat Dominic Cruz, took a 3-year layoff after winning or defending his title, excuse me. I don't really know what that decision was about, but he came back, had a really close fight with Aljamain Sterling. Arguably could have won the fight, but in the later rounds he just didn't do enough, and Sterling just kind of stuffed his head into the mat for the most of the time. But still, nonetheless, a really good performance to considering he had a 3-year layoff and Sterling was on a good run as a champion at the time. So one thing that's doing my head in about this fight is, obviously Cejudo's now 38 years old. He's got a big height disadvantage. He's got a 6-inch height disadvantage, a 6.5 reach disadvantage against Peyton Talbot. But again, you're looking at the same sort of thing as the first fight I just discussed. It's mostly experience versus youth. On the one hand, you've got Peyton Talbot, who's 25 years old, and then you've got Henry Cejudo, who's 38 years old. But I don't think this argument applies so much in this fight, because last year, Peyton Talbot just lost by wrestlefuck against Raoni Barcelos, who was 37 years old at the time. He's now 38, and he's still winning fights. Raoni Barcelos just won another fight against Ricky Simon. That was it. That's one thing that's really doing my head in about this fight as well. A lot of people are taking the angle of Cejudo is, oh, he's coming back for a paycheck, he's fighting for a paycheck. The guy's coming back to win a fight, man. The guy was an Olympic gold medalist, a 2-weight UFC champion, and people are saying that he's coming back against a 27-year-old to lose just to get a paycheck. It's the complete bullshit. Cejudo, with that level of competitiveness that he's got in him, and with the wins that he's got over Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, Dominic Cruz, he's not coming back against a 27-year-old prospect to lose. He's not getting fed to the wolves here. And again, Peyton Talbot lost his last fight, well, the one before Felipe Lima, which he came back and won against a very good grappler, a young grappler, but nowhere near the caliber of wrestling or the experience of Cejudo. He got wrestle-fucked by a 37-year-old. Who's not really won over anyone that good. Cody Garbrandt, who's out of his prime, he won against him. Ricky Simon. But apart from that, he got grapple fucked last year by a 37-year-old who's not ever fought for a title before or fought top contenders, again, apart from Cody Garbrandt. Either way, Cejudo is a big underdog here against Talbot. He had his last fight against Song Yadong. I think he looked great in that fight up until the eye poke. He was landing some really good shots. There was some good wrestling exchanges there. So Song Yadong as well is a much bigger, and he's also experienced, but he's a much bigger fighter than Cejudo. And people are taking the angle also of Peyton's 5'10", he's going to keep him at range. No, Cejudo's good at striking. He's good at finding his way inside. And with his wrestling accolades as well, he's going to find the shot at some point during that fight. And if Raoni Barcelos can take Talbot down, then Cejudo can take him down as well. You can't look at Cejudo's fight against Merab and go, oh, well, Peyton's going to stuff the takedown. Well, Merab is going to stuff the takedowns. Obviously, it's fucking Merab. But, you know, I think this is too much too soon for Talbot. Just this year as well, Cejudo just beat Kairat Akhmetov in a grappling match, who's 30-2 in professional MMA. You know, it's not like he's lost a step. And people are saying, oh, he's too old to wrestle, his knees. It's the same thing people say about Usman, and then look what he did to Hakeem Buckley. His knees are fine. He's going into a professional MMA fight. He's just made it through a full camp for a professional high-level UFC fight. His knees are going to be just fine. And again, his striking has caught up loads. He started to not just go for the wrestling. Like, that's what got him done against Demetrius Johnson, where he got TKO'd with knees to the body. He can now strike as well. He's got like a weird, like, karate, bouncy style. He hurt Merab when he fought Merab as well in the first round. You know, it's not just a wrestler versus a striker. Cejudo is a well-rounded MMA fighter now. He's got good kicks, he's got good boxing. Does leave his chin out there a little bit, but again, his wrestling completely makes up for that. If he gets hurt, he can recover and he can shoot. And again, back to Peyton Talbot, 27 years old, so he's a lot younger than Cejudo. He's 11 years younger. Just had a win over Felipe Lima, who is a fantastic grappler, who's got some wins in featherweight over some good guys, and has come down to bantamweight. You know, but again, you're looking at Felipe Lima, who's a lot less experienced than Cejudo, and yes, his takedown defense looked great in that fight, but I don't think it's going to look the same against Cejudo, who's a much better wrestler. Felipe Lima is more of a jiu-jitsu, take the back, trip sort of guy. Cejudo's got way more offense in terms of his wrestling ability. So Talbot has 70% of his wins in his entire pro career by knockout or TKO. But Cejudo's really hard to hit as well, and if you've ever fought or sparred with someone that's a lot shorter than you, because again, Talbot's 5'10", Cejudo's 5'4". If you've ever sparred or fought someone that's all the way down here, it's really hard to find them with your shots. Obviously, the uppercut is there, and that's also a takedown defense in itself. But again, I just think Cejudo's a bit too much experience for Talbot at this point. I think he's being pushed a little bit too early for some reason. And again, lost to Raoni Barcelos last year by grapple fuck. So I think that Cejudo's going to take this one. He's a big underdog. He's a 3-1 underdog. Talbot is a big favourite in this fight. But I think the bookies have got this one wrong, and I'm going to go with Cejudo by decision. Cejudo could also get a late ground and pound TKO, maybe in the third round, but I'm going to take Cejudo by decision in this one. Moving on. So now we're looking at Tesoro Tyra versus Brandon Moreno. Probably should have said Moreno's name first, no disrespect. But Moreno's in a bit of a weird situation right now because you're looking at someone who's 31 years old, but in terms of fight age and the wars that he's been through, he is a bit older than 31 in that term. So, you know, he seems to have slowed down a little bit in his recent fights. His last fight was against Steve Erceg, which was, people call it a close fight. I watched that live and I watched it back a good few times. I think Moreno looked really good. I think he looked really sharp in there. He was all mentally there as well. Like, if you look at his fight against Brandon Royval, it just looked like a different fighter compared to what we used to from Brandon Moreno, who's normally really gritty, in your face, really fast hands, aggressive, really good scrambles. Against Royval, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was just a bad night in the office, but he does seem to have slowed down a little bit. But in that fight against Steve Erceg, really fast hands. He hurt Erceg a few times as well. I thought he was close to getting a finish in the second round, but he ended up winning by decision. And people call that a close fight. I think Moreno looked really good. Obviously, he didn't put a stamp on it. He didn't knock him out, didn't submit him, didn't dominate him, but I think he looked really good in that fight. And Moreno's got a lot of experience as well. He's fought, obviously lost against Pantoja 3 times, but that's still good experience against someone who's on a generational run in terms of his champion status right now, who's also the next fight we're going to discuss. But, you know, he's beat Figueiredo twice, lost to Figueiredo once. He's fought Figueiredo 3 times. He's had a couple of trilogies, which is really good experience against top guys. He's beat Kai Kara France, Albazi. Again, lost to Pantoja 3 times, but experience is experience. So, but that's where I think that Moreno has an advantage in this as well, because if you look at who he's prepared for, he's fought Pantoja 3 times and he's fought Figueiredo 3 times. That is 6 fight camps preparing for very grapple-heavy people that hit hard as well, which is exactly what you're looking at in Cyril Taira. Taira is a lot more green. He's 25 years old, very, very good wrestler, very good offensive wrestling, hits hard as well. Sort of leaves his chin out there a little bit. Like, if you look at the fight against Brandon Royval, he didn't deal with the straight shots very well. His head movement wasn't there. He wasn't parrying or defensively very sound. Lost that fight, Taira did, but very good experience for him in a 5-rounder against Royval. Looking at Cyril Taira, he's got 1 loss in his professional career, and that is against Brandon Royval, the fight we just talked about then. He had good moments in that fight. He had some good scrambles. He landed some shots. He got some good takedowns, but Royval was just a bit too much for him, a little bit too early, I think. And Royval's a top contender as well. He just had a war against Van, who's now fighting for the title. After that fight, he bounced back against Hyung Sung Park. He got I think it was in the second round, got a neck crank, which was a nasty submission finish. And Park's a very good fighter as well, very scrambly, very aggressive. Kind of like Moreno, but just not of the same caliber, not of the same level at all. Taira has a 76% finish rate as well, and a lot of that comes by submission. He's very, very good at taking the back. He's got very good back control, and that is, you can see it in all his fights. That is exactly what he looks to do. Obviously, he looks to control on the ground, get his takedowns going, but when he gets you down, he looks to take the back. He looks for the rear naked choke, or if he can't get the rear naked choke, he just cranks your face. So he's a very, very high-level grappler, and I think that the UFC is pushing, especially like you look at Kai Asakura as well. The UFC is pushing these guys to fight top-level contenders, and I'm guessing to fight for the title as well. I think they're trying to bring the Japanese fans into MMA a little bit more, and again, you saw that the first time against Kai Asakura against Pantoja, which didn't go very well for him. So if you look at this fight in terms of a stylistic matchup, I think obviously Moreno again is in a weird situation where he has seemed to have slowed down a little bit despite his young age, only 31 years old, turning 32 soon. But he's got great scrambles as well. Like, if you look at his fights against Figueiredo, his fights against Pantoja, he had really good moments in all of those fights, really good scrambles. But I don't know if those fights against 6 wars against Pantoja and Figueiredo, that is going to take a toll on your body. He got hurt in some of those fights as well. But Taira, again, struggles against the straight shots. His game is wrestling. And if Moreno shows up on his A game and he has those scrambles going and the straight shots, which Taira will struggle against unless he's improved his boxing defense. But that fight wasn't too long ago against Royval, so I don't think he's had too much time to level up his boxing that much. And if you look at how Moreno looked against Erceg, hurting him with the straight shots, I think that Moreno can get this one done. I still think that Moreno's got it in him to get it done. He's not 40 years old, you know. At flyweight, to have that many wars, it will take a toll. And again, you can see that in his fights where he's slowed down. I don't think either man gets finished here, though. I think Moreno's got very good hands. I think Taira's got very good submission games. He can take the back, but I think Moreno's going to survive. I don't think Moreno's going to get caught in a submission off the back. My official prediction for this one is going to be Moreno by decision. Moving on. So now moving on to Alejandro Pantoja versus Joshua Van. I'm not even going to make this one a long prediction. I don't need to break this one down too much, I don't think. You're looking at someone who debuted in his amateur career in 2020 as a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus Pantoja, who's a UFC champion. He's been fighting for fucking years and years. The guy's been fighting forever. Has loads of great wins over top contenders in the UFC. Another case of youth versus experience, because there's obviously that whole discussion about the 35-year-old curse, where anyone below 170 who's 35 years old or older isn't going to beat a top contender or win a title fight. Volkanovski just showed that that isn't always the case. Volkanovski just won against Lopez. Unfortunately, he's been matched up against him again for whatever the fuck reason, but that's, you know, you can't look at the fight and go, oh, he's 35, he's going to lose. He's clearly, you know, he's beaten top contenders for years now, and he's just had a fight against Kai Kara France where he fucking steamrolled him in the first round. The second round, got the finish with the rear naked choke. You know, and Kai Kara France looked helpless in there, and he's a game motherfucker as well. That guy comes to fight, and he couldn't do absolutely anything against Pantoja. He looked helpless in there. He was getting blasted with leg kicks, he was getting punched, barrel rolled onto the floor. You know, absolutely smothered in that fight, and that was very recently as well. Pantoja has 35 professional fights in his career, and then obviously amateur as well. He's got a 67% finish rate, so he does go for the finish. He's not a decision machine, which, you know, is okay if you are. Moving on to the next one. You know, he's beaten Manel Cap, he's beaten Brandon Royval, he's beaten Moreno 3 times, he's beaten Kai Kara France in his last fight. He looks right now like a world beater. He's very aggressive, he steamrolls his opponents, he looks for the takedown aggressively, he strikes aggressively. Does leave his chin out there a little bit, he's a little bit sloppy with his striking defense, but it doesn't seem to have mattered recently at all, you know. His game is kind of similar to Merab's, where he just overwhelms his opponent. But when he gets you down, he looks to finish you as well. He doesn't look to just take you down over and over and over again and, you know, work to a decision. The guy looks to finish you all the time. Kind of the similar situation to Moreno or Jan Blachowicz. Pantoja's been through a lot of wars. He's had a lot of fights in general against, again, 35 professional fights. So, you know, will he start to show his age, or will he start to show the wear and tear in this fight against Van? Personally, I don't think so, excuse me. So again, when you're looking at Joshua Van, you know, 24 years old, really, really green in life and in fighting in general. Made his amateur debut in 2020. You know, BJJ blue belt as well. He's very, very green. He's not got the experience, anywhere near the experience that Pantoja has, or anyone that Pantoja's fought. You know, his best win is Brandon Royval, where he did look really good, but he had moments where he got caught in that fight. It was very back and forth. He by no means dominated Brandon Royval. You look at the fight against Ray Tsuria, who fuck knows what he was trying to do in that fight. He was just spamming trips, throws, takedowns, but wasn't setting it up with the hands. You know, Van is very, very green, and I think this is way too much, way too soon for him. I would like to see Van win. I'd like to see a fresh champion in flyweight, especially someone who's that young and has a really exciting style to watch, really clean with the hands, really good boxing, very good composure and cage control and everything. But, you know, I think if Pantoja gets him to the ground, I don't think he's going to survive. I don't trust that if Pantoja gets onto Van's back, that Van is going to somehow survive that for 4, 3, 5 minutes whenever Pantoja manages to get him down. You know, so looking at this fight, I think it's going to go, every fight goes one or two ways, right? I think if Van can keep it on the feet, obviously, then he can knock out Pantoja, who overextends on his strikes. He's sloppy with the striking defense. He's been through a lot of wars, so his chin might be a little bit more compromised at this point, and he's 35 years old. If Van can't keep it on the feet, which I don't personally think he will, I think Pantoja is going to overwhelm him with the volume on the feet, and he's going to barrel him into the ground, just like he did against Kai Kara France. I think that Pantoja is going to find the finish early here. So my official prediction for this one is going to be Pantoja via round 1 submission. Most likely a rear naked choke. Moving on to the main event. So now we're looking at Merab the Machine Dvalishvili versus Piotr No Mercy Yan. Hopefully I said those names right as well. I think, again, it doesn't need much discussion with this fight. They've already had a 5-round fight where Merab 50-45'd Yan, but there's a little bit of controversy about that fight. And the controversy was that Yan came into the fight with a broken right hand, and Merab also came into the fight with a broken right hand as well. So, you know, I think for the most part, you're looking at Jan needs to come into this after getting dominated by Merab the first time, and he's thinking about, oh, what do I need to change, or how do I not get taken down, or how do I catch him in an exchange? Well, Merab's just coming into this his usual self, just the usual love to fight, game, aggressive attitude. You know, Merab's fucking crazy, man, and he doesn't care about the danger that Jan presents. He has respect for him, but if you watch that first fight, he was blasting him with the calf kick. He hurt his leg early. Jan, in terms of his game, likes to switch stances a lot. He likes to mix the grappling and striking together, you know, to win decisions or to find a finish later on. He's a very early, you know, he's a late starter, excuse me. And people like to say that he download data and shit like this, but Jan's now had 5 rounds against Merab. If he's not downloaded the fucking data now, you know, he needs to get going early in this fight. He can't do the same thing he did last time where he's just there with his high guard and just absorbing the shots, waiting for Merab to shoot. You know, Jan has very good takedown defense. You can see it against Song Yadong, against Merab, against Aljamain Sterling as well. His takedown defense and his offensive wrestling, his trips, his throws, you know, he's got really good judo game. But you're looking at someone in Merab who doesn't give a fuck. If he doesn't get the first 10 takedowns, he's going to shoot another 40, you know? And he broke the record against Jan for the most takedowns shot in a UFC fight. You know, if you're looking at both men coming into the fight with a broken right hand, yeah, Merab's a wrestler, but go train or go have a fight and try and wrestle with your hand looking like that. You know, it's nowhere, it's the same thing as trying to strike with the right hand. It's not easy in any regard. So I think the two injuries cancel each other out. Like if you look at Merab's last fight against Sandhagen, he almost finished him on the feet. Merab swings for the fucking fences, man. That guy isn't just a wrestler, he throws heat. And I think that's a big factor in this fight because Piotr Jan likes to use a very tight high guard, and he's got an active high guard as well. But I think that the way Merab throws, Jan is going to have to rely on that high guard, and then that's going to leave the opportunity for Merab to shoot. Merab used a really good setup where he would feint the jab or throw the jab, and then Jan would think that the shot's coming, so then Merab would throw the jab again and then feint the overhand, and then Peter raises that high guard a little bit more, and then Merab shoots for the legs, takes him down. You know, and I think that that's just going to keep happening over and over again. I don't think it's going to be any different from the first fight. The only difference I think there is going to be in this time and the second fight is now that Jan has a better healed right hand, hopefully, that I think he could hurt Merab early on in the fight. And I think that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to get an early finish. I know Jan is a slow starter, downloads data, but this is a rematch now. He has that data downloaded if that is what his game is. And if he can't get going early in this one, I think it's going to be exactly the same as the first fight. Maybe a little bit closer now that he's not got an injury that we know of anyway. But speaking of that, you look at when he fought Aljamain Sterling the first time, absolutely dominated him from start to finish. You know, Aljamain looked helpless in there against him. Obviously, he lost because of a DQ. He basically lost by smashing his fucking head in. Obviously, it was really stupid to throw the illegal knee. But again, look at that fight from start to finish. He absolutely dominated him the entire time. But then in the rematch, when Jan had his data downloaded, Aljamain smothered him. You know, he couldn't really do much in that fight, and he lost that one by decision. So I don't think it matters too much whether Jan downloads data or whatever the fuck you want to say. You know, I think he needs to get going early and look for a finish, or I think more of the same is going to happen to him. It's going to be another 5 rounds of him getting fucked. In terms of the age gap as well, Merab's 34, Jan's 32. Both men have been through a lot of wars. Merab especially because he always goes to decision, as he's known for. He has a lot of 5-round, 3-round decisions. He had a submission or technical submission loss against Ricky Simon, where he held onto the guillotine in mount until the timer went, and then when he let go, he was unconscious on the ground. Apart from that, though, he's been on an absolute tear in his UFC career. He's beaten everyone they've put in front of him. It doesn't matter what style he's gone against. He's gone against wrestlers in Umar Nurmagomedov. He comes from the Nurmagomedov camp, who's an excellent striker and an excellent wrestler. But it's just that cardio that he uses. He weaponizes it against everybody. It doesn't matter what your style is. He can throw on the feet. He almost knocked Corey Sandhagen out. He hurt Umar on the feet as well. He was landing big shots on Jan. He forced Jan to go southpaw from the 2nd or 3rd round onwards when Jan prefers to switch and mix it up. So he took that part of his game plan away from him. You know, I don't think there's anywhere particularly that Merab is going to struggle against Jan. And Jan, isn't known for being a one-punch knockout artist. You know, his knockouts come from accumulation of damage or overwhelming his opponents by mixing it up on the feet and on the ground with the trips, the takedowns, getting back up, punching their head in. It's not going to matter as much against Merab. I don't think he's going to execute that sort of game plan here. And when you think about it that way, taking away half of Piotr Jan's game, which is mixing in the grappling like he did against Sean O'Malley, for example, he's basically forced to stay on the feet. There was some moments where Jan would hold Merab against the fence and control him for like 20 seconds and then get reversed. But apart from that, he's lost half of his game plan here against Merab. So when you're looking at a matchup where the other guy's job is to survive half of the martial arts that is in mixed martial arts, which is the grappling side, you're already putting the other guy at a huge advantage, because what does good wrestling do? It sets up the striking. And again, Merab throws heat. He doesn't just throw little shit shots. He's not the most technical boxer in the world, but he throws and swings for the fucking fences. You know, imagine that I'm holding pads for you, right? And every time you throw a combination or a single shot, I'm just throwing fucking heat back at you, big kicks, kicking your calf, throwing overhands, and then I shoot on you. And, you know, imagine trying to build a rhythm on the pads, or even in sparring or whatever, when I'm trying to do that to you. You know, it's going to be a big struggle for Jan, I think. And I think this fight will be closer than the first one, now that Jan is healthy, hopefully. But even if Merab has a broken hand and Jan's completely healthy, I still trust Merab to get it done, because the guy's crazy, man. The guy's fucking nuts. You see what he does outside the cage as well as inside. To cut weight, he just stops eating to cut weight. And I think to see someone with the mentality that Merab has, it's a very, very rare thing. It's not something you see in many fighters at all. And when you've got someone like that, it's really hard to pick against them. You know, would it be good to see Jan get the belt again? Of course it would, because again, Jan mixes everything together. He's got really good stylistic striking. He's very exciting on the feet. He's got very good takedowns. He's got good trips, throws. He's got very good judo. He's exciting to watch. And he's got a very gritty and game attitude, but so does Merab. And, you know, I don't think that it's going to be any different from the first one, like I said. So my official prediction for this one is going to be Merab by decision, but a much closer decision than we saw the first time. I imagine a 48-47 or something like that. So on to the juicy shit. If you're looking to make a bet on these fights and you want a parlay to use, I'm going to put 2 here and here. So after recording this video, I decided to watch the guys on the prelims again, and I've decided to come up with a 3-leg bonus bet. I think regardless of how the fight with Naimov and Santos concludes, I think Naimov is going to try and draw this fight out at least over 7.5 minutes, and Santos isn't a very fast finisher anyway. I think Abdul Malik is going to spark Tricoli because he has shit striking, and after thinking and watching how much Duncan gets clipped and hurt in his fights, and how much of a fucking tornado McKinney can be in the first round of his fights, I've decided to put him as a first round knockout as well. So I've just put this extra one together. You can follow it if you want, you can add it to the rest, whatever the fuck you want. Cheers. So the first one I'm going to do is a little bit of a riskier one, but it's going to make you a lot more money. I'm going to have Baranowski and Turner both to win. I'm going to have Henry Cejudo to win and the fight to go over 1.5 rounds. I'm going to have Moreno by decision, and I'm going to have Pantoja by submission. The second one I'm going to have a little bit safer. I'm going to have Merab and Jan to go over 1.5 rounds, Moreno and Tyra to go over 1.5 rounds, Karine Silva and Macy Barber to go over 1.5 rounds because they're women, and then I'm going to have Bruno Ferreira and Jalin Turner both to win. Nice one. Oosh!